Right. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And since there is no audience, I will move on to our third agenda item, which is, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as prepared?
No, there's not.
All right, thank you, Will. Item 4, as we're fast tracking to Will's presentation as our administrator, entertain an approval of our October minutes as included in your packet. Thank you. A second. Wonderful. Any needed conversation? Travis, you good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
I think I lip read. You good, Travis?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
You can hear you now.
Okay.
All right. All in favor to approve the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved unanimously. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Trumbull, members of the committee. So a couple updates written, and then I've got just a couple additional more first. So want to make you aware that the discussion on urban renewal agency governance, bylaws, and administrative review started. We discussed this as part of the 6-month action plan, and the urban renewal agency board received a informational discussion item on it at their last meeting, and it didn't make any recommendations other than a way to sort and structure the discussion. So starting first really with the city council, because the urban renewal agency exists as a creation of the city that's created by city ordinance. And so if we want to review the governing board membership, kind of everything flows from there, and it really starts with the city council. So taking first things first, we suggested, and the urban renewal agency board agreed that that should be the first step, and then so that kind of kicks the ball over to the city council. So they're going to discuss if it makes sense to review, and is the current agency board, which is the city council and 2 port commissioners, kind of was that meeting our needs now? That was created in 2012. We're going through a lot of transition with the spend down of the waterfront and the creation of the new West Side District. And actually, I just got a letter from the Port Commission, from the port members who are on the URA board, took that conversation back to the Port Commission, and they kind of all amongst themselves agreed that they didn't really see a place for the port going forward on the URA board either. So they have a formal letter saying we discussed it and we support basically kind of stepping away as we reconfigure the URA board. So once that gets sorted, then we'll move into things that are underneath the purview of the URA board, which is bylaws, and bylaws creates the advisory committee, and then into the real nitty-gritty details of cost allocation between the city and the URA board. And I expect that that's also too when we'll engage and have some items here for discussion before this advisory committee. So just informational at this point, but any questions? Okay. Then I also want to make you aware, as part of the West Side District, well, really it kind of goes all the way back to the 2002 Affordable Housing Strategy, which recommended creation of the West Side District as a way to fund, as one strategy to fund housing. Another strategy in there was builder incentives to basically see if we can't tweak the economics a little bit so that more modest housing types are made, rather than just kind of the best and highest, most profitable use being big, large homes, and see if we can do that with some incentives. So the affordable housing strategy suggested that, but did not define it. And so I've put together a project proposal, and it's in your meeting packet. And there's reached out and was able to secure a Willamette MBA student team, so graduate team of graduate students, to research kind of what builder incentives of this kind look like in other cities and that have been effective, and kind of synthesize that, come back and also learn about Hood River and our development environment and see if they have any recommendations as for what would be a good fit for us. Yeah, so expect to start in January and wrap up in April.
How many people on that team?
I think, I don't know for sure. So that's one of my connections there, is that's my alma mater. I went there and actually went through this very same process 10 years ago. And so just from memory, it's about 6 to 8 students.
Well, I have a quick question as far as the URA board. With taking the 2 seats off from the port commissioners, is there an idea that the city council has right now to fill those 2 seats with other, I guess, vested interests in the community, or how?
Yeah, that's so in the discussion item that we had on December, I asked if there was any initial policy preferences that would help direct staff into generating some different options. I think one alternative, and as I've looked through other urban renewal agencies in Oregon, about 2/3 of urban renewal agencies, their board is just the city council, 1-for-1. So that's by far the most common, and what you get out of that is alignment in policy. So you'd never have like the kind of the money arm of the city conflicting with the policy arm of the city, and also you can have urban renewal agency meetings anytime they meet. It doesn't have to be once a month. But there definitely was also some appetite to look into what is basically the equivalent of what the port had provided when we had the waterfront district, and also there was port properties in downtown, and like what would be the equivalent for our focus in the Heights and on the West Side district. And given that we have unincorporated county that's now part of our district, maybe some county representation, or because such a big part of the West Side plan is parks and trails, maybe the Parks District. So certainly there was some interest in thinking about that, but the discussion was very, very, very preliminary.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 2 items I didn't have here, but just touch on them. We were expecting to have the Heights streetscape report ready to add as a minor amendment to the Heights district overall plan in December. Just needed a little bit more time to fully cross the T's and dot the I's and get that full report done. So that got pushed to January. So we'll be doing that in January. And then looking forward to our January meeting. I don't think that we'll have anything that necessarily needs the URAC's action on, because we're kind of waiting for the Heights minor amendment. And we'll be a little short-staffed when that meeting is happening. So I was checking if it would be okay if we canceled the January meeting. So you had nods all around. Okay. Great. And I will move on to second item, which is just informational on jurisdictional transfer. So this is an item that we had originally scheduled for our December meeting, and I gave the same presentation to the Urban Renewal Agency Board at their December meeting. And the reason for it is just informational. There's no action needed, but as we move from planning to implementation of the Heights streetscape, it generally kind of always has generated a lot of questions about jurisdictional transfer. And so I thought good to synthesize all the research and have a focused discussion and kind of time to ask any questions on it. So put this presentation together where I'll go, it's kind of the background and reasons generally for jurisdictional transfer, and then the framework that they take. And then specifically to us, what are our next steps and considerations as we're moving into a jurisdictional transfer negotiation with ODOT. So maybe reaching further back than I need to, but really just to kind of emphasize how things change over time and the use of roadways change. The state highway system was initially just 36, mostly unpaved roads, designated in 1917. And before that, it was a system of market roads. So what they were defined as, and it really the key is movement of goods, commerce, people in between communities. And today there's now approaching 200 different state highways, and they're all adhere to the state highway design manual, which creates a consistent look, feel, dimensions across the system throughout the state of Oregon, which you can imagine if you're a trucker or someone who does business in between communities and between counties, need to kind of have an understanding of what the roadway is going to look like and feel like. It's important for efficient movement. And so here in Hood River, what runs through the Heights highway was designated as Route 281 as a secondary route, and it was designated in 1931. The handbook for transferring roads notes that the reasons why you would want to transfer a road to the state is if it supports that statewide movement of goods, and if the state is better able to modernize and maintain it, kind of keep it in a minimal state of repair, kind of to support that statewide movement. And why you might want to transfer a roadway back is if it's no longer serving that statewide purpose, and there's really a local vision and local needs and local uses identified as the primary use of that roadway. So how does that connect to what we're looking to do in the Heights? Well, this is a picture of right by Pine Street, looking north towards Mount Adams, right there at 12th and Pine, when this was a market road, dirt road, and kind of a primary access point from the south into the city. And that same view today, where, as we know, it is a bustling retail, restaurant, business district that serves a lot of local needs. And it's also no longer the most efficient freight route through the city. So if you're anywhere on the east side of the Hood River, right, your fastest access point to the interstate is going to be on Oregon 35. Most places on the west side of the Hood River, you're going to take Country Club to Mount Adams to get on the interstate. And even if you're starting at the very southern point of the city and trying to get to the interstate, your fastest route is going to be to take Frankton. So I think that's why we saw and observed during the traffic study that we did for the Heights Streetscape Plan that only 2.4% of current traffic volume through the Heights is heavy truck freight traffic. And we also now have a local vision. This isn't just a thoroughfare, but it's a place that through our planning process, we've decided to create kind of a holistic designed to meet the holistic needs of the neighborhood, balancing not just through traffic, but also pedestrian and bikes, which would not meet the ODOT's highway standards. And if we try to pursue it while it is a state highway, at minimum, we'll need to get permits and approvals for every project. And where it does not meet ODOT design exceptions, we'll need to go through a design exception process. In all cases, adding cost and time to implementation. And we have the ability locally to kind of effectuate our vision with the urban renewal funds, creating at least matching dollars and enough money to get the first several projects done. So this is, say, kind of outlines how it's no longer the state, it's part of the state network system that it used to be, and shows how we have a local vision and the ability to bring our local vision to fruition. So kind of checking those two boxes as to why it would be a good time to transfer it back to the city. So a framework of how how jurisdictional transfers typically work. So one, define the boundaries. So a logical boundary is likely from just north of Pacific to just south of Oak Street. And so that keeps us from needing to operate those streetlights at those two north and south intersections. And while also avoiding any islands of state highway routes. So from May to Oak Street, right? If that would just be an island of state roadway if we didn't take it all the way to Oak. And if we took all of the property or all of the right of way shown there, it would be 1.3 miles or about a 2.2% increase to the total local roadways added to the city responsibility. So after you define boundaries, it's good to document kind of the maintenance responsibilities, know what we're taking on, know what we already do. This is not done yet. We're still needing to do this, but we do know that we already enforce like parking regulations, traffic regulations, maintains stormwater, paint the parking demarcations, street sweep, and we also work with ODOT to sand and plow the district. And I think that really makes kind of an important point too about kind of the importance to us versus ODOT is 12th and 13th is listed as service level D on their snowplow map. And on our snowplow map, it's priority 1. And so I think that kind of gets relative level of importance at the local level versus the state level for this secondary highway. You know, the state's really much more focused on the interstate, Highway 26, Highway 35. Next is perform a cost analysis. So we know that a lot of the roadways and sidewalks aren't in a good state of repair. So this is basically estimating the cost to bring that up to an acceptable level. Now, even if we have that cost, doesn't mean that ODOT is obligated or even has the money to pay it to us. It's just basically informational. That helps us in negotiations, but really kind of level setting expectations that there is no line item in ODOT's budget for jurisdictional transfer payments. If they weren't budgeting to maintain it before, they don't really have the budget to pay us to bring it up to a certain level of maintenance standards now. Also, but they do have capital improvement plans, so budgeted monies for improvements on the route. So right now, that's mostly the elevated sidewalk improvements on May. And so looking at, well, what if we take those over and we take those monies along with it? And also in play is they are required to bring all the crosswalks up to ADA standards. And so if we can negotiate a reasonable cost per corner, that will do those upgrades, and we'll just take the money to take it off of their hands, since that is existing money that we're taking liability from them. So it is a point of negotiation. And then there may be some room to say we're going to save you X number of dollars on maintenance costs, but if they're not doing it right now, it's going to be tough to get it out of them. And then once you have all that information, you're ready to engage in negotiations. So a point on also level setting expectations on that. They go back. There's a big range of time that it can take to do a jurisdictional transfer. And it all depends on the number of resources that you're needing to get. For example, Oak Street, we did a jurisdictional transfer in 2020. That took about 6 months. ODOT retained responsibility for upgrading the crosswalks to ADA standards, and they said that they would do one final pavement overlay or asphalt overlay, but no money exchanged hands. And so that jurisdictional transfer went fairly quickly. Some examples of other recent jurisdictional transfers where money was exchanged. Sutherland took about 3 years of negotiations to get from kind of initial scoping meetings with ODOT through to a final agreement. Portland for 82nd Avenue's jurisdictional transfer was 4 years. And at the end, it required $80 million in COVID relief funds that the state legislature appropriated for the project. And that was basically the catalyst that unbroke the logjam for that jurisdictional transfer. And then Tigard has been trying to do a jurisdictional transfer at Hall Boulevard for the last 4 years. They had a House bill in the last legislative session that required ODOT to bring that road up to a state of good repair, and allocated $50 million for them to do so. And that bill was left in Ways and Means at the end of session and didn't go anywhere, kind of leaving Tigard without a clear next step.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
Is there any relationship between the amount of roadway that is being transferred in these projects versus how long it might take?
Well, these are all much longer than Oak Street for sure.
Right.
But I think like if Hull, I think this is a subject like conjecture,
Yes.
but I think if Tigard said, give us the keys tomorrow and we don't worry about any money, they could probably do it, you know, near immediately. I think it's all about winning a chunk of cash. So with those considerations, what's next for us? We've already had preliminary discussions with ODOT. They're aware. They've been kept in the loop on the Heights Streetscape project throughout the entire process. And now we've told them that it's wrapped up. We've approved the final design. We're about to get the final product, and we want to start exploring what they can offer and what we can do as far as jurisdictional transfer. So I've had kind of 2 preliminary meetings where we haven't been able to get into really any I'd say meat of the negotiations yet, but we're hoping to pull together the right people in January. There's also been created a state jurisdictional transfer advisory committee. It was created in the last legislative session. They've had their first meeting in November, and this group is supposed to take requests like Tigard's, like ours, like anyone else who wants to be seeking state appropriations, and create a standardized application process, vet them, and recommend 3 jurisdictional transfers to the legislature in even numbered years. So every other year, recommend 3. And essentially those 3 are the ones that the legislature has decided would be the ones that they consider for like specific appropriations. So we kind of have to gauge too, do we want to do direct negotiations with ODOT, get in line for review by this committee, both, some other combination. I watched their first meeting. It was really just assigning officers and getting a presentation on the Sutherland jurisdictional transfer. So they haven't decided on the process, their standards, how they're going to make their decision, but I'm watching them very closely. And so those are kind of the 2 tracks that we're on right now, and considerations that we're keeping in mind, but open it up to asking any questions about how a jurisdictional transfer might go.
You're saying that it's easier when there's not money that exchanges hands. Does the city have any idea on what their position would be for that? If that was just smooth, that was the sort of like reduce friction for the jurisdictional transfer.
It would go much quicker. Yeah, they're very friendly, very nice to work with. Get back to me quickly on emails, and have reflected nothing but positivity back towards the jurisdictional transfer. They get that it's what we want, and they're happy to make it happen. But every chance they get, they say, we don't have any money to give you.
I guess, so what's the city's position on that? Have you guys thought through that? Like, we just want it and we can use other funds to do what we want to do? Or is there a high probability of needing funding from ODOT?
Yeah, we don't have a set negotiation position yet. We're just asking questions. So basically a lot of the information that we need in order to even develop our position, ODOT has. So knowing how much maintenance and operations that they've done over the past 5 years, how much it has cost them, what is the burden. We even need to define and document exactly what the jurisdictional authorities are, as far as like, do they stop at the roadway? Do they go through the parking spaces? Does it include the sidewalk? Those issues still need to be researched and documented. So we kind of don't even have enough information to say what we want, but I'd say it's pretty fair to say that we want an equitable, fair transfer where we're not taking on a bunch of excess accumulated liability. Whether or not we can get that, I don't know. So that's where we need to engage and then come back and think about our goals and priorities as far as the pace that we want to move forward the Heights streetscape plan versus how long we want to spend in jurisdictional transfer negotiations.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So out of the 3 jurisdictional transfers that you showed, there's been no money changing hands out of those 3 yet?
Sutherland did, yeah, they took 3 years and they were able to get some money to improve their to kind of bring them up to closer to a state, what considered a state of good repair. It's back in 2016. I don't know if ODOT's financial situation in 2016 versus today, but so you know they were able to. Portland was mostly was able to get done because of the federal appropriations. There was some money from ODOT, but it was really when I was talking about like a chunk of money payoff versus looking at what they already have budgeted and like saying, okay, you had already budgeted to do this project in 3 years from now. So like that's an existing appropriation, give us that money. That's basically what Portland lived off of for the ODOT monies, if that does that make sense?
Is the wiring of these funds would be staggered out in an annual budget
It is
format typically?
it is for Portland. So I should say that, you know, that framework that I put together is very basic, but every jurisdictional transfer is unique. Outside of that kind of framework, any number of everything's up for negotiation. And if you look through the PowerPoint from the Portland 82nd Avenue presentation that I had in the packet, there is like, it's future money. Yeah, like some of the agreement was you'll get this 3 years from now. So you can log roll any number of ways to try to get to a deal.
And as a public entity, ODOT has to put on, I mean, they'll show us what their budgeted and what their expenditures were historically in this segment.
I've asked them for the maintenance records. Their capital improvement plan is publicly posted on the internet. And so, yeah, I can call that out.
Try to extrapolate what they have invested and what they will invest and.
Well, at least have their plan for what they will invest. And as far as on this roadway, the only thing is the May Street elevated sidewalk. That's the only discrete identifiable project that is on this roadway. There's other ones on OR 281, but they're south of the city. They're in the county. There are general like emergency like maintenance dollars, right, that they have that's like unallocated money that's in their CIP for like as needed. And so potentially we could say our roadway is X percentage of your entire system. So you know, maybe we get a little bit, but that's not probably.
But this money would be shared within the general fund because some of the transfer of money would be for maintenance and snow removal and things like that the city is going to incur moving forward versus just saying, okay, great, we get $30 million for renewal. I mean, this is good. I think I'll look forward to seeing what direction that you go with the information you find out. It's definitely premature, but
Yeah.
I speak for the advisory council. We would like some money from ODOT.
I think everyone wants money from ODOT. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would also say think it's fair to say we would need some money from ODOT, you know, because I feel with the stoplight and the roundabout and property acquisitions, we're going to exceed our maximum indebtedness just based on this little corridor. And that doesn't even really touch base with, you know, going from Belmont out to Brookside. And of course down from May Street down. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for putting that together.
Thanks.
Is there anything else, Will, that we should be aware of or?
No, that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any items from the members?
Night.
Travis?
No, I think it makes a ton of sense. So thanks for the background. Great presentation. Help explaining the need for a jurisdictional transfer. So I just hope we get lots of money from ODOT and it happens quickly. I know that won't be the case.
Did we get a second on that? Okay. Is this our quickest meeting? Are there any items from the members? Okay. I would, yeah, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
You too.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Okay, I don't need to make a motion for that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.